I've been a doctor for over 28 years. Here's what I've learned. I'm going to keep this short as I can. I'll make a follow-up video in the future for those smaller things, but these are big ones. These are things that I've learned through experience. And that is, the first is that, number one, not everybody wants natural health care. As much as we think that natural health care makes more sense, it's less expensive, it's safer, it's easier on the body, it resolves the problem long term as opposed to just short-term benefit, not everybody wants it. And ironically, that is not what you would think compared to what you see on the internet. You're going to see a lot of people promoting lifestyle changes and things, and you'd think to yourself, well, everybody would want that, correct? The answer is, these are people like myself making YouTube videos, but we don't know the negative response from it. But when you're in private practice, you definitely get that negative response. And here's what I mean. If you try to tell a person to either eat a certain food or do an exercise, a lot of times the patient comes back a week later and they haven't done any of the recommendations that you've explained to them. And you think to yourself, well, you've had 1 week to do it. You didn't at least try once? And the answer is no. Now, I'm not saying everyone does this, but the majority of people that say they want natural health care, they genuinely probably wish they would, but when it comes to pain or having a disease, they want the symptoms gone as soon as humanly possible. And the person that can deliver on that promise is going to get the majority of the patient's money. And that's what it boils down to, is very often with pharmaceutical companies, drugs have a greater effect on symptoms than natural health care ever would, given a short period of time. So for example, we could put a needle in your arm and say count to 10 and you won't get past 3. You will be knocked out, such that a person could literally put a knife in you, slice you open, remove organs, and you'll never feel any pain. That's some serious pain relief. Now, I'm not able to do that in my office because I'm not a surgeon. There's nothing that I could do that can compete with drugs. Now, having said that, this is the bad part. And you're probably not going to like me for this, of course, but who cares? I realized this very early on in practice because I was very frustrated. I came out of school just all gangbusters. I was ready to go. I was going to save the world, you know? I think all doctors are like that. And I just couldn't believe when patients would come into my office, they would bring their list of medications, and it was mind-blowing how many medications each patient was on. 3 different drugs, 4 different drugs for high blood pressure, 3 different drugs for cholesterol. Then they had drugs for their liver and their kidney because of the side effects of those other drugs. The statins were causing them leg pain, and the doctor would give them the triad, which is what we call it, painkillers, muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatories for that. Then the anti-inflammatories would bother the person's stomach, so they were on some type of antacid, It was insane. And at the time I was learning to invest and just, put $50 away a month as savings for my future. And I started with Charles Schwab and I started investing. And someone told me, never invest with your heart, invest with your brain. And I realized, wow, there's a lot of people taking a lot of drugs. This is what people want. And I would talk to them and try to get them change their diet, and I was gung-ho, and I was a young guy full of energy, and I was blown away by my lack of skill or lack of communication skills and lack of ability to change another human. And I realized that the way to make money, if you want to know the secret to making a lot of money, is invest in pharmaceutical companies, because they seem to be the only stock in my portfolio that's been doing extremely well, if you know what I mean. So as sad as it sounds, to change people, it's just very difficult to be in a profession that promotes natural healthcare and to have a difficult time getting people to do it. And this isn't everyone. And what I've learned through this is that if not everyone wants natural healthcare, you gotta find patients that do want natural healthcare, and that's your army. That's the people that will listen to what you say. So there you go, some investment advice as well as chiropractic advice. The second thing I've learned is when you get those people that are interested in naturally altering their body for the better, and it comes to diet, it's not the argument of which diet is better. It's not worth it to argue that the keto diet is the human diet and every other diet somehow is not a human diet. That doesn't make any sense. There's the carnivore diet, there's the zone diet, there's the Atkins diet, there's the South Beach diet, there's the Mediterranean diet, there's the Pritikin diet, there's low carb, high fiber, there's the DASH diet. None of this matters, because there's something that trumps the diet more than anything, and that is taste. Taste will always overpower the diet. No one will follow a diet for too long, unless they're crazy, that doesn't taste good. The food has to taste good. And that's not to say that just because sugar tastes good, that's what everybody should eat. That's not what I'm saying, because people will always read into that in that way. But you have to allow the patient to have food that tastes good to them, and then to learn how to modify food and cook food so that it tastes good. Because only the most dedicated person who's so blinded or has the blinders on that will only eat certain foods if they're healthy, despite the fact they don't like the taste of the food, that is a very unusual person. Truly, taste is the one thing that you have to address when it comes to changing people's diets. And I'm not sure if there's any other way. The third thing I've learned, and this is, I think, more doctors are coming along with this than when I started, but it's more of a chiropractic philosophy, is that the symptoms are simply a reflection of a body in stress. Physical stress, emotional stress, chemical stress. So when a person has a symptom, whether it's sciatica, neck pain, nerve pain, whether they have a symptom like digestive disturbances, or GERD is a common one, diarrhea, people can have all sorts of digestive problems. They can have high blood pressure, they can have high cholesterol, they can have low energy. These are all just symptoms of an underlying condition, and if you address that condition, the symptoms go away almost as if by magic. But if you treat the symptoms as the disease, all you're going to be doing is spinning your wheels. I'll give you a good example. Let's do cholesterol and high blood pressure, because those are things that people are largely medicated for. That's like some of the top drugs that are selling these days, other than like mental drugs, for anxiety and depression and all those things. That's another big market that never existed a long time ago. But if someone has high blood pressure and someone has high cholesterol and they're attempting to change those things, if they are trying to change those things, just by lowering the cholesterol and lowering the blood pressure number does not necessarily make you a healthy person. Finding out why, what are you eating, what are you doing, what's your mental status throughout the day? Is that the reason you're having high blood pressure? The blood pressure is not the disease. The blood pressure is a result of a disease process, and if you can, or a lack of health process, we'll call it. And if you can improve the person's health, very often the blood pressure goes down to whatever normal would be for them. Of course, it depends on a person's age. Now, I know that the current guidelines say it doesn't matter what your age is, whether you're 10 years old or 80 years old, you should have the same blood pressure. The thought process of everyone having the same blood pressure, no matter what their age, is so ridiculous. It's almost like saying our skin should look the same at 10 years old as it should at 80. It'd be nice, but it's not going to happen. And it doesn't seem like a normal recommendation. It seems like a recommendation simply to sell more pills. But when you think of your symptoms as a symptom and a result of something that's not healthy in your body, you tend to start chasing down different avenues, and that will very often help you in helping the patient. It's so simple that I'm going to give you an example. It's not uncommon for someone to come in with one-sided bursitis on their hip. This is something I just saw prior to me doing this video. I had a patient who had bursitis of the right hip. And this is so common. And when I examined the patient, most of the joint restrictions were on the left sacroiliac joint, left hip. But they were getting bursitis on the right hip. Now, naturally, a person would want you to do treatment on the right hip, the bursitis hip, the painful hip. They want you to rub it, they want you to do ultrasound, they want you to give them drugs, they want anti-inflammatories for that right hip. But the reason their hip was getting excessively strained in the bursa was because it was being overused and overworked as a compensation reaction to the left side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat the left side, the left sacroiliac joint and the left hip. By restoring balance from side to side, you're able to create a symmetry on both sides so that the left side and the right side work together 50-50, not 30-70. And what's going to happen, because I've seen this a million times, I've seen this over and over and over, we see it time and time again, we see it all the time. That bursitis is going to improve, but not because I did something to the bursa and I didn't do anything to remove the pain in the bursa. I treated the cause, which was the imbalance in the body. That's the secret. So those are 4 secrets that I've kind of learned in the last 28 years. I hope to learn more in the next 28, but we'll see how long I last. If you have any questions or concerns, you can simply just ask them in the comment section. We also do Zoom consultations as well as see patients in our office. But I'm going to make a follow-up video of other things because I have some other things I'd like to share with you. But that'll be for the next video in the future. So just go ahead and look for that.